Yeah.
Can go outside.
Yes, once I'm done, I promise you I'll take you outside and we'll go outside once I'm done, okay? Give me some.
Okay. And we can be this outside right now. The basketball out now.
You gotta wait for daddy, okay? Unless you talk to mommy, because daddy's almost done work. I just gotta finish work here. Yes, you can.
Okay. Alrighty. Alrighty. Here, let me have it down. Daddy will be here right when I'm done. It's boring down here. You go play for a little bit and then daddy will come take you up when I'm done, I promise. You wanna stay here? Okay, alright. Daddy, do this, please, honey. Come here. You wanna come sit on my lap? Mm. Test, 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 test. 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 Test. If you guys hear me, see me, stand by for me 1 second. I'm gonna bring everybody up as panelists. You're all coming up. No worries, you're not gonna have to come on stage, but you gotta come up. That's how we get down.
Aha.
Okay, now everybody should be able to talk. Go ahead, buddy. Go enjoy your candy bar.
Oh man, you're creating havoc there.
Dude,
Giving him a candy bar is gonna be all sugared up and wired, man.
my wife's gonna have to deal with that, bro. Told her, I said, you need to give me 1 hour and then we'll be good to go. Everybody's gonna be a panelist. Everybody's gonna be a panelist. Stop declining. Stop declining to be panelists. Come up and be a panelist so you could show yourself because Cash Money will not speak to you unless you show your face. I'm just telling you that right now. So come up to panelist. Everybody come up to panelist. Everybody come up to panelist. Stop declining. Stop declining. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
His
you.
real name, not I
Panelists,
can't call
come
him
up to
Cash
panelists.
Money.
Yeah, you guys need to come up to be panelists. He's not gonna talk to you unless you are on camera. Okay, so that's
we go.
that. What up, y'all? Grant, not playing, bro. You gotta come to panelist, bro. Otherwise, you won't go. Let's see here. Let's make sure everybody's good. I'm gonna ask to unmute yourself, and then of course, like you guys are gonna be muted when he's coming on. He's gonna do his thing, and then you could just kind of take your notes and just kind of go from there. But let's go ahead and make sure everybody is getting on here. Allowed to talk. Panelist, there's Robbie. Now people are coming up. We're gonna promote everybody to panelist. I'm promoting everybody to panelist so we could see your faces. You must come on. You don't have to talk. But guys, I'm telling you, you're not gonna want to miss this. All right. Yeah, trust me when I tell you. You're gonna want to ask questions. Mike is very interactive. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing jamming here. Let me just go ahead and check on him and see where he's at. Here, buddy. More piling in. Okay, so while everybody keeps coming in, I'll keep bringing y'all up. Guys, just to let you know, we're gonna bring everybody up as panelists because Mike likes to speak to faces, not black boxes like me. Very similar. So if you guys wanna unmute and ask questions when it's time to do that, you can do that as well. Oh, it looks like Cash Money is in the building. Cash Money. Yeah, it looks like Cash Money is absolutely in the building right now, guys. So once he's coming on, we'll get rocking. Again, everybody on picture. Otherwise, the Cash Man doesn't come on stage. If you guys recall, Wayne's World, remember? I think it was like 1,000 brown M&Ms will also wouldn't go on stage. Well, it's very, very similar here. The Cash Man likes to see faces. We don't like to talk to black boxes, and he'd tell you that, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that for him and just get that out of the way so he can get right to the nuts and potatoes. What is up? Welcome, Mr. Cash Money, Mike Termine in the house, ladies and gentlemen. While people are palling in here, how are you doing, my friend? I'm going to just let people come on in, okay?
Good to see everybody. How's everybody doing today? Okay. Good to see
Indeed.
everybody.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, if you
Yes,
could put your
indeed.
cameras on, that would be awesome. Worst thing in the world is to talk to some black squares or just some names. Yeah, it's awesome.
And
Nice
I'm
to see everybody in here today.
Yes, good to see you, my friend. And what we do here, Mike, is we promote everybody to panelist. So that way we can see their faces. We're not talking to black boxes. And then when we open up for like a Q&A, they could go ahead and they can ask their questions. So everybody, you're being promoted to panelist. Don't decline me. I'm not going to put you on stage or anything like that. Just like to have there be faces that we can see as people start to pile in. So we'll give it another minute, Mike, because I know people might be moseying on in here. For those of you that don't know, this is what I have been waiting for. This is my personal coach, my mentor, one of my dear friends, Mr. Mike Termine, Cash Money, as they call him, and for a good reason. And maybe I'll let him explain that one day because that's a funny story too. However, sometimes you come across folks in the industry that are just straight up goaded from the time that they come in. And they don't even have to earn that right. Like they just come in and you're like, holy shit, this is the cream of the crop. Where did they come from? That is what happened when I met Cash Money myself. And the first time I was exposed to Mike, I was mind blown because I've never seen anybody be able to go off the top of the head, and just flow on this topic. Listen, pay attention, take notes. I promise you, you will come back and you will see him again, and then dots will connect, light bulbs will go off. he sees light bulbs inside people's brains go off. Like literally, he can see it when it's happening. I realized it maybe after my first or second time, and I've listened to this man speak 4 or 5 times. This will now be the 6th time, and I can't wait. I've got my notepad out. So without further ado, I'm going to let my man take it over, and I'm going to let you guys continue to pile in here. Just know that I'm going to promote you to panelist. If you can hear me, I'm going to promote you to panelist. You don't have to talk, just accept it, because Kash doesn't like speaking to black faces, and neither do I. I don't want to see black boxes. I don't want to see it. I want to see your face shining bright in the light. So let me see it. Show those faces. I want to see Melissa, Hunter, Sandy, no black boxes. I don't want to see it. I want to see your face. Carol, Colby, come up and show thyself. And I'm going to promote you all to panelists while we do that. You don't have to come off if you don't want to speak unless you have a question, but please show your face. Mr. Cash Money, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. The seller finance goat himself, Mr. Cash Money, Mike Termine. Welcome, my bro.
Hi, what's going on? I appreciate everybody being here today. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started here. I don't know how long we're going to go for. I tend to not shut up. So we'll just kind of see how this plays out. We'll leave it up to John. John will tell me when to stop or tell me when to keep going, whatever you'd like me to do. But I definitely want to get a temperature check of the room. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is if I ask you to raise your hand, just put your hand up so that I can see it. I can get a little bit of a temperature check, and then I can kind of organize what I want to talk about, because there's so much to talk about with what's going on in the real estate market. So let's start here. How many of you have never done a deal? Put a hand up. All right, awesome. How many of you are just wholesalers? Put your hand up. Okay, awesome. How many of you have actually structured a subject to deal? Awesome, Melissa. All right, you and I are going to go at it today. And then how many of you have actually structured a seller finance deal? John Kirk. All right, this is a great little crowd. So one, thank you very much for having me on. John, thanks for having me on. Let me give you a little backstory on how this all kind of came to be. So my name is Mike Termine. I've been in the real estate business for right at 24 years. I started in the year 2000. I started out wanting to be a real estate broker. I wound up getting my license. I'm originally from New York. Wound up getting my license up there, and thought that I wanted to be a real estate broker, only to realize that every time I would show a house, I would walk in and want to fix something, either want to fix the kitchen or fix the bathroom and turn around and put it back on the market. So I immediately shifted into the investment side of things. And with that, I had some fantastic failures and some fantastic successes. I've been through a bankruptcy, I've been through a foreclosure, and I've been through a tax audit. So there's nobody here more qualified to talk to you about high-level real estate than myself in this room today. If any of you are facing any one of those scenarios, I can promise you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that it usually turns out okay. So I started there. I started flipping houses and stuff, thought I was doing all the right things, and I would make all of this money. I'd make $50,000 and $60,000 rips. I'd go back to my family and say, hey, look at how good I was doing, only to realize years down the road that I would give my ass to go back and literally have a fifth of the houses that I had flipped, that I should have kept for long-term rentals. So I had these kind of ups and downs and these ebbs and flows inside the space. And then I wound up taking this note investing seminar one time. And there were these two guys, these two presenters. There were about 40 people in the room. And I can tell that everybody else in the room, it kind of sounded like Japanese to them. They didn't really understand what these guys were talking about. And I was trying to understand what they were talking about. And then finally, like an act of God, honestly, it all of a sudden, it rushed into the back of my brain where I had raised my hand inside this note investing seminar. And I said, hey, are you creating these notes just to sell them? And all 39 other people turned around and looked at me like, what do you know that I don't know? And it was at that moment that I knew I was going to stand out from each and every one of you. Because I knew at that point how to intertwine creative finance into my pitch, working with the psychology behind the seller, the psychology of a buyer, being a numbers guy, and then ultimately being able to pitch this in a way that not many people know how to do. So how many of you here are familiar with Eric Klein? Raise your hand. All right, so Eric and I are really good buddies. And I wound up about 3 years ago on Instagram, just like you guys, scrolling through Instagram, and Eric popped up in front of my face. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? And I wound up taking his sales training because even though I've been in the game for a long time, I love to learn from everybody. So I took his sales training, and as I'm taking his sales training, I'm like maybe 1 hour into the first session, and I turn to my wife and I go, holy shit, this guy knows nothing about real estate. And I said, I'm going to go out to Raleigh and I'm going to show him exactly what he's missing. And she goes, you're crazy. You don't even know this guy. And I go, watch. So I'm laying in bed that night and I shoot him a text and I go, hey, I'm going to come on out to Raleigh to show you creative finance. You don't know what you're missing. And he says, how much? And I said, it's nothing. It's on me. I want to come out there and just show you. He shut his office down. I wound up teaching his entire office. And from there, I started training the top teams in the country. I travel all around the country, speak on stages. You might have seen Eric and I do a bunch of stuff. And then the way we got in front of John, actually, I knew John prior to. John had flown me out to Baltimore to do a little seminar for maybe about 100 people. And then John wound up coming out to a mastermind that Eric and I were doing out in Raleigh. And if there was anybody in that place that day that was asking all the right questions and was absolutely mind blown, it was John. And I came home saying, I really missed an opportunity. My wife's like, what do you mean? And I said, these fucking camera guys, I curse like a sailor, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm from New York originally. You could take the boy out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the boy. So I'm gonna cuss. If that bothers you, then you're gonna have to mute yourself or whatever. Just shut me off. But
They're used to it. Don't worry. They're used to it with me.
all right, perfect. So well, I forgot what I was saying there. I lost my track there.
I came out there to see you in Raleigh. I actually came out first to see you in Raleigh when it was the forces were colliding. Two forces collide, two worlds collide. It was Eric Klein and Cash Money Mike, and I got to literally witness Eric and Cash at the same time for 2 days, an intensive, and it changed everything for me. So yes, sir.
So I had come home and I said, man, I missed an opportunity to my wife. She's like, why? I said, because these fucking media guys got it all wrong. They've got the camera pointed on me. And had I had the camera pointed on John, I would have had the best content ever because he was oohing and ahhing and everything else. So hopefully the stuff that I talked to you about today is going to be interesting enough for you where you can realize that there is a lot of opportunity down the pipeline. Okay. So let's start with a little bit about the real estate market, how it's changing, and then I'll get into the real tactical stuff for seller finance, kind of give you the bullet points on how it works, and then ultimately I'll give you some tactical stuff to kind of see if you can add some of the things into a pitch. So when you first get started in real estate, usually what happens is that you find somebody out on Instagram like myself or another influencer, whatever it may be, and you say to yourself, I want the easiest barrier to entry, right? You might not have any experience, and everybody screams from the top of the mountain that maybe you should start with wholesaling, right? And the thing about wholesaling is that you obviously have to buy a property at a discount, but all of the trainings that were kind of put out there, because you don't have the money, because you don't have the experience, you then take some sales training that puts even more pressure on you. You wind up getting on the phone, you've got all this phone fear, and ultimately the pressure tends to get so heavy that it's just almost unbearable, right? And then you listen to the guy go, well, just stay in it and keep getting your ass kicked in. You've got to have really thick skin. So segue into the market, that would be true. If this was like 2018, 2017, I think, right, which was like the golden age of wholesaling, I think, it was easy to put a deal together. But since then, it's been a little bit more difficult. But if there was ever a time where I believe it's been an absolutely perfect storm, because for most of you who are in real estate, you know that it's cyclical, is that right now is an absolutely perfect storm. John and I were talking a little bit today before we got on this Zoom. He just wanted to make sure I was going to be on time, and we started talking a little bit about the market and some of the changing. Month over month, the inventory is up 35%. And that's like in most major metros. So what does that tell you? You'll hear me talk about that today. What does that tell you? What does that mean? Because most people think it's a bag of one-liners that you got to put on your back, and you run into these conversations and you're like, well, if I could just ask them this, put them on a hold and listen to what they have to say, I'm going to be able to put a deal together. And the real thing that gets you to put the deals together is understanding, you being able to put yourself inside the seller's head, inside the buyer's head, whether you're buying or selling, and ultimately that'll give you an advantage. So I think if there was ever a time that you wanted to learn creative, whether you learn it from me or not, you should absolutely learn it. The more tools that you could put together to try to put ultimate deals together is absolutely going to serve you well. All right, so let's get into it. We got 5 types of deals here. We got a wholesale deal. We got a wholesale deal. We got a novation deal. We got a subject to deal. We got a hybrid deal, which is part seller finance, part subject to. And then we got a true seller finance deal. Out of all of those deals, the least risky is a seller finance deal. The most risky is a subject to deal. Okay? Real estate is all about control. And if you're going to take something over subject to, you are out of control. In other words, there's a bank in front of you that controls it. Now, if you're going to buy for cash and sell on owner finance, because there's a difference between seller finance and owner finance. Owner finance is when you own the property and you're going to owner finance somebody, or you're going to purchase on seller finance. Ultimately, that gives you the most leverage. But if you're going to buy an interest rate or you're going to buy a subject to deal, there's a bank in front of you and you are out of control. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I'm not a big fan of subject to deals. I buy them all the time. But I've got some pretty big tomatoes and I love the risk. So the risk for me, the reward absolutely outdoes the risk all day long. Okay. So, again, wholesale deals, novation deals, subject to deals, hybrid deals, and then seller finance deals. Those are your 5. Okay. Here's the real beauty of seller finance is that everybody in this room has to buy a property at a discount to make money. I'm the guy who comes behind all of you as we're all pulling the same lists, skip tracing the same lists, calling the same sellers, all trying to stand out from the pack. I'm the guy who comes behind you and goes, hey, Mr. Seller, I'll give you exactly what you're asking for if you give me one thing in exchange, and that's time. I'm looking for time. The worst thing you can do is lead a conversation trying to lock a piece of property up at 50 cents on the dollar, kick the seller in the ass over the conversation, hoping and praying that you're going to put the deal together. And then at the final minute, say, wait a minute, Mr. Seller, there's something else I can do here. I know you didn't like my 50 cents on the dollar offer, but now I can buy it seller finance. Would you be open to giving me terms and you can be the bank and I'll give you a 6% interest rate and I'll balloon you out in 30 years. And the next thing you're going to hear is going to be a dial tone. It makes it worse when you try to pitch something that you truly do not understand. So the reason why most people come to me is because I speak in crayon language. Literally. If I don't understand it, and because I'm not a smart dude. When it comes to numbers, I'm smart. When it comes to pitching, I'm smart. But I'm not a smart dude. But I keep it in crayon language. So instead of saying things like, I'll balloon you out in 30 years, I merely ask a question like this. I say, if I gave you what you wanted, how much time would you give me to pay it off? I just asked for a balloon. Instead of asking for, a 0% interest rate or an interest rate, there are different word tracks that you can use to kind of put these deals together. When I say to somebody, hey, I want to make you equal monthly payments each and every month. All right. So John, let me ask you a question. When you get in front of your computer each and every day and you open it up and there's a number on that computer, because you probably check your bank account as much as I check my bank account. When you open it up, what number do you want staring back at you? I plant seeds of hope in their head. When I speak to somebody, I go, if I gave you your asking price and I gave you a non-refundable deposit and guaranteed you some interest, how much time would you give me to pay it off? They're like, this guy's out of his mind. I've been getting kicked in the ass at 50 cents on the dollar. Now this guy's on the phone and he wants to give me $25,000 more than what I'm asking. So I get to overpay because I know where the money goes. And hopefully I can give you a little bit about where the money goes. Is everybody tracking so far? Raise your hand. Everybody's tracking? All right, awesome. I'm going to leave a bunch of time for Q&A. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So ask it. It's not very often that I come in and speak to groups like this. I'm doing this as a favor to John. You've got my ears, you've got my eyes, so ask. I have no problem answering any question that you want, okay? All right, so in order to be really good at seller finance, you have to understand some of the basics. And some of the basics are what's negotiable and what's not negotiable. On a wholesale deal, I might ask you to unmute yourself and I might pick on you, all right? I might pick on you a little bit, okay? So let's go with Rob Castillo. So Rob, unmute yourself here. So let me ask you a question. On a wholesale deal, what are you trying to negotiate?
Trying to negotiate price.
Trying to negotiate price. Are you trying to negotiate anything else?
No, just price.
All right. On a seller finance deal, here are the 6 negotiables. Write them down. And there's a very specific order. Okay. I'm going to give you both. You're going to negotiate the purchase price. You're going to negotiate the down payment. You're going to negotiate the monthly payment amount. You're going to negotiate the timeline at which you pay it off or the balloon. You're going to negotiate the interest and the interest only. The only time you are going to use interest only is when they won't give you enough time. Okay? Purchase price, down payment, monthly payment amount, the time at which you're going to pay it off, the interest and the interest only. You're only going to use interest only when they won't give you enough time. Okay? And to understand, Rob, you can mute yourself. And to understand how to do this effectively, here's what you want to negotiate first. You always want to negotiate the purchase price first. The second and third thing can be reversed. You want to negotiate the monthly payment amount and you want to negotiate the payoff period. Those can be reversed. In other words, the purchase price, the payoff period, and then the monthly payment amount, those 3 first. Then you want to use the down payment, the interest, and the interest only as levers to give you exactly what you want. If you negotiate the down payment first, you're going to get locked into a corner and not be able to get out of it. And all we're going to do is we're going to move pieces around to understand where the money goes and how we make this happen. So I'm going to give you an actual example of a real deal. Okay. This is a deal that I bought 2 years ago. And I'm going to give you the whole deal. Okay. And I'm going to give you the numbers. Now, I don't have a calculator in front of me, so make sure you pull your calculators out. I'm going to give you a little underwriting session here so that you can go back. And I promise you, some of you tonight are going to be laying in bed going, fuck, I need a piece of paper and a pen. The numbers are going to start swirling around in your head, because if you're as obsessed as I am, I jump out of my bed with a dry erase marker, go to a fucking whiteboard, and go bananas on a whiteboard, looking at the two pieces of the deal. Their side and my side. I'll get more into that in just a little bit. I wake up one morning. John's heard the story before. I wake up one morning to a $500,000 tax bill. I get out of bed and I open up this tax bill and I turn over to my wife. I go, we got a problem. And she's like, what's the problem? And I go, well, the IRS just sent us a bill for $498. She goes, $498. I said, no, $498,000. She's like, what's the problem? And I said, well, I don't know what the problem is. I said, we didn't do anything wrong. You know, we filed taxes, whatever. Long story short, this thing was an accountant was using round numbers. I was giving the accountant actual numbers. He was rounding off the numbers, and they wound up flagging this thing. And at that time, my record keeping wasn't great. Let me give you a little word of advice. The most important person in your real estate journey is your bookkeeper. It's not your CPA. Your accountant doesn't know jack shit. Your attorney probably doesn't know jack shit either. You've got to be really careful about who you're looking for, because even though you pay these people really good money, does not mean they're smarter than you. Trust me. I teach a lot of CPAs and a lot of attorneys things that they're like, oh my God, Mike, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. So the bookkeeper is the most important person in your entire real estate journey. Okay. You got to make sure you keep your personal and your business separate. Do not commingle the two. We're all guilty of it. You commingle the two and they come looking at you, you're going to be in trouble. Especially because every time you go to the gas station and you buy a pack of gum, they go, would you like a receipt? And you go, no, I'm good. Or they give you the receipt and you crumple it up and you throw it in the garbage. Every time somebody asks you if you'd like a receipt, get into the habit of saying yes. Because without the receipt, they might not allow you to write it off. So I get this tax bill and it took me 3 months to get all my paperwork together. I get this big thing and I go walking into this printer place. There's a kid sitting behind the desk and I walk in, my face is like hanging off my skull. I'm miserable. I've been trying to put all this shit together for forever. He goes, what is this for? And I go, man, I'm going through a nasty tax audit. He goes, what do you do? And I go, I'm a real estate investor. He goes, well, this is going to take me like an hour and a half to run off. And I said, well, I've got nothing but time. Why don't you run it off and I'll talk to you about the real estate investing. So, and this is literally how the deal came about. So I used to be a broker. I gave up my license in New York because I didn't want the liability. I made my wife the real estate broker here in North Carolina. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I said, well, if you're interested in a piece of property, my wife is a broker. She can find you a place. Long story short, his story was his mother was incarcerated and she left him $100,000. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 23 years old. I said, man, I got to really commend you. I go, at 23 years old, I thought you'd be leaving 2 tire marks coming out of the Chevrolet dealer with $100,000. The fact that you want to get involved in real estate is very admirable. My wife winds up selling him a piece of property. I meet him at the property, set up all the rehab budget, and I go, Jason, listen, here's what's so great about seller finance is that once you put a deal together, you can make deals after the deal. You can remember that you can make deals after the deal, which is crazy. So I go up there and I've got a construction background. I've got all the trades. I can piece it all together. Does anybody like my hat, man? You see these stars? My daughter, I got a D1 softball player in my family. My daughter is a Division I softball player. She's the most vertically challenged softball player in the history of the game. She stands all of 5'1", but the kid can rake. What I mean by rake is she can hit. She can hit. So she made me this cool little hat with all the stars on it. I thought I'd wear it for you guys today.
Thing is fire, bro. For sure.
Thank you. So
Yeah, it's fire.
you like
Where's
it?
she play at?
She plays in the ASUN conference. She plays for Queen's University.
Very cool.
Yeah, she got recruited for D2. Believe it or not, she got recruited for D2, and then ultimately they wound up paying her very well. And I'm like, man, something's wrong. They're paying you too much money for D2. Well, sure enough, they were switching into D1 that year. We had no idea. So we were happy to take the cake, and she's happy to play ball. So
There you go.
yeah, she made me this hat. So I went up there, I set up the budget for this guy, and I go, Jason, listen, I go, it's a $40,000 purchase. You shouldn't spend more than $40,000 on the rehab. Do you need any trades? He's like, I got it. I said, okay. So long story short is my wife is expecting the relist. So we're waiting for him to get done. I set him up with like a 90-day time plan, time frame to get all the work done. And after about 60 days, I checked in with him. I said, hey, how's it going? He goes, man, it's going good. He's like, we're almost done. I said, awesome. I said, just let me know when you're done. I said, man, the market's on fire, so try to get done as fast as you can. He says, no problem. About a week goes by after I speak to him the first time, and he goes, hey, do you have the name of a painter? And I said, yeah. So I gave him the painting trade. And when I gave him the painting trade, my first instinct was all the work's done. They're going to finish with painting, and then we're going to put this thing on the market. So I give him the name of a painter. 3 weeks later, he calls me back. He goes, hey, do you have the name of a plumber? And I'm like, Jason, if you're asking me for a fucking plumber after you've asked me for the painter, you're doing things in the wrong order. I said, are you sure you don't want me to come up there and like whatever? No, I got it. 30 days goes by. I don't hear from him. He calls me up and he says, hey, can I get an HVAC guy? And I give him the HVAC guy. He still doesn't want to take my help. And then I'm in Arizona and I'm on the plane. And as soon as the wheels touch down, my phone goes off and it's him. If you want an amazing lead generating source, I'm going to give it to you here and now. You got to think outside the box inside this game. All right. Nobody gives a fuck if you buy houses for cash. Nobody cares if you buy houses as is, quick close. Nobody cares. The only thing they care about is the money. So go give it to them. So stop running ads, all cash, quick close, no inspections, no showings, no hassle, your terms, your generic shit. You should be making ads that target the ones that need your help. Like the first-time flippers who run out of money. Because that's what this guy was. So he calls me up and he goes, hey, can I borrow 10 grand? And I go, all right, Jason, now I'm on my way up. I go to the house, brand new kitchen, brand new bath, brand new floors, brand new rock, brand new fixtures, brand new everything.
Sorry, bro.
What the hell was that?
I'm bringing you on the spotlight, bro.
No, man, I don't want to be the spotlight. Bring me back to the crowd, man.
You like it? Okay,
Fuck the
okay.
spotlight.
My bad.
I like to hang out with everybody. There we go. I like to see everybody. So I don't like the spotlight, man.
Spotlight loves you. Bro.
I don't like the
Loves you,
spotlight.
bro. Let's get it.
So as I'm walking in, I see all of these stainless steel appliances inside the living room in the boxes. And he's asking me for 10 grand. This is why you gotta have a little bit of a different sense. You've got to be able to sense what the hell is going on with somebody, right? You got to read between the lines in the conversation. You can't just go with your bag of one-liners and go, hey, my name is Mike and I'm with 123 Capital Group and I want to know if you're interested in selling. Click, 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 ass kicked in, nuts kicked in, constantly, all day long. But stay with it, man. Stay with it. You're going to get some leather skin. And the more you get beat up, the more deals you're going to do. You know what you should do? You should spend all your money on data. Just keep throwing money on data because you're looking for the same needle in the haystack that all 50 other people on here are looking for. And guess how many needles in the haystack there are? Few, very few. And your timing's got to be right on. So when you go into these conversations and you walk into these houses, you got to be able to read between the lines. And those fucking appliances told me a story. It was 2 washers and it was a washer, a dryer, and a fridge. And I'm like, this doesn't add up. So as soon as he asked me for 10 grand, I already knew the house was paid off. I knew he was out of money and I could have gave him the 10 grand. And guess what? I would have owned the fucking house for 10 grand because he would have never been able to pay me back. Ever. He had a punch list that was my 5 grand. If it's my 5 grand, it's his 15,000 because I can get it done more cost effective than he did, right, Ken? He needs to hire the trades. I already know how to deal with the trades. So my 5,000 is somebody else's 15,000 or 20,000. And I said, Jason, I don't want to give you the 10 grand. And he said, why? Now I could be a dick and literally give him the 10 grand and I would have owned it for 10 grand, but I truly have heart, even though I might not sound like it a lot of the time. I truly have a heart, and I felt like his mom being incarcerated and 100 left him the money, and I wasn't about to steal this kid's fucking money, but I was about to put a fucking juicy deal together. So I walk in and I said, listen, I said, now I'm negotiating. I said, I don't even think my $10,000 is going to be able to finish this job for you. I said, this is more like $20,000. And I feel like you're in over your head. I said, and then the second problem is that we can't even list this thing. You've got to sell it to an investor, and an investor is literally going to lowball you. So why don't I do this? Why don't I guarantee that you don't lose your money? Because the minute I walk out this house, you're going to leave yourself open to somebody else, and somebody else is going to take your fucking money. I'm going to guarantee you get it back. So how much do you think your work is worth inside this thing? He goes, well, you know, I got $100,000 into it. So like, I'd like to make like 120 and, you know, like 120, maybe a $20,000 profit. I said, no problem. I'll give you the 120, but I want to have an inspection. I called up an inspector. I said, I got a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. It's 1,000 square feet. I'm going to pay you what you want me to pay you, but I want a 100-page inspection. Guy thought I was fucking crazy. I go, don't come back unless it's 100 pages. If it's not 100 pages, I'm not paying you. He goes, I'll make it 100 pages. And sure enough, he came back with an inspection report that thick. I brought it up to Jason and said, let's go over this, bud. And I licked my finger and went, you see this here? You told me that was done. It's not done. You see this here? This is not done. This is not done. This is not done. And I'm negotiating it. I'm not saying, well, I think it's this amount of money and I think it's this, and fighting with a seller. I'm showing the seller what it's worth. And I go, bud, I'm sorry, man. I said, but I got to ask you a question. I go, I really don't think I'm going to be able to pay 120 for this. I go, I see these appliances inside this living room. How far behind in your credit card payments are you? And he goes, and the minute he said, I went, it's over. I got you. That little that little that little hesitation on the phone that a seller can hear. I'm gonna intertwine two things. The little hesitation on the phone that you don't sound like you're the one who's going to be able to get it across the finish line is the one that's going to get fucking hung up on.
So true. So true.
You breathe for a second and you make me, we all got a high radar for bullshit, right? How many times you get on the phone, you're like, they don't even say hello. You're like, not interested. You can feel the energy through the phone. Literally. Right? So you got to think about that. Don't don't like, don't do any of that. Don't misstep. Educate yourself. Stay in a group with John. Understand how to do subject to deals, creative deals. Fucking pitch them out of your ass until you can't pitch them anymore. I got a team of 5 that all they do is just pitch seller finance deals. I'm not ripping through data. I'm like, we don't make offers. You guys make offers. I don't make fucking offers. I take the offer away and I make you feel like if you don't work with me, you'll be making a mistake. You'll be making a mistake if you don't work with me. So going through it and I go, here's what I can do. I can guarantee you that you don't lose the 100,000 because he was $20,000 over budget. Remember, he bought it for 40. I set him up for 40, figured he'd have 20,000. I asked him where he was living, said he was living with his dad. I asked him if he was paying rent. He said no, whatever. So he had blown through the 20, and then those fucking appliances, those damn appliances are the things that made me say, how far behind on your credit card payments are you? He said, I'm about 2 months, which was like $4,000. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll buy the house for 105. I'll give you $10,000 up front. Write this down. Here are your numbers. Here's your underwriting session. I'll buy the house for 105. I'll give you $10,000 down. And here was the pitch. 4,000 will take care of those back credit card payments for you. The other 6,000 you can put inside your pocket. He goes, that's not enough cash. I go, well, how much cash do you want? Notice I answer a question with a question. How much cash do you want? Well, how much time would you give me? How much time do you want? I want interest. What do you mean by interest? I want interest. How much interest do you want? You've got to, it's question-based selling. Okay? You don't want to be making offers. You want to be structuring deals. Very, very different. It's a great group, by the way. It's a great group. You guys are super attentive. I can tell. I can see it all in your eyes. I'm about to blow your mind in a couple of minutes. Don't worry. You're all going to have a fucking aha moment. I guarantee it. The same aha moment that everybody who comes through my training at the exact same moment goes, holy shit. I didn't even realize that was possible. And all I do is I do exactly what the banks do. I write loans. And I make the seller the bank. I make my own interest rates. I make my own timeline. I make my own payoff periods. And most importantly, every time I pay the seller, I pay me. You say that again. Every time I pay the seller, I'm paying me. I've got a very unique filter on how I see this game. And if you could just adopt a little bit of this filter here today, you'll toss and turn tonight.
Agreed.
You'll toss and turn tonight. He says, well, I need a little more cash. Now, remember something. The reason why I want you to negotiate the down payment 4th on the list is because that's the only money that's coming out of your pocket. Think about this. In wholesale, you don't have the fucking money. So you use this convince sales technique to try to buy it at a discount. You don't have the fucking money. You ain't got the 200 racks to go buy the house. You've got to convince somebody to sell it at a discount so that you can make the delta. Well, if you can do that, then you should have no problem overpaying because you don't need the money to overpay. The same way you don't need the money to buy at a discount, you don't need the money to overpay. The only money out of your pocket is your down payment money and your rehab money and everything. But for the structuring of the deal, the actual real estate deal is just your down payment money. So he said, I needed more cash. Now, do I want to give him the cash? I don't want to give him the cash. So who, Miss Klein, who, Deb Klein, who is going to give him the cash that he wants? Unmute yourself. May I get a water, please?
Your buyer.
The tenant.
Oh, the tenant. Okay.
Great answer. Great answer. The tenant. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the $5,000, but I'll give it to you in 18 months. And as I rent the property through the cash flow that I receive, the tenant, that cash flow builds up, and then I take that and I go, here you go. Here you go. And every time I give it to him, it's kicking it down. It's kicking the loan down. So I'm creating equity. Jen. Unmute yourself, Jen. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I want you to tell me what equity is.
It's value.
How do you describe equity?
It's value.
No, value is value. Value is what a buyer would be willing to pay for a piece of property, what they value the property is, right? The market is supply and demand, and the property is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay. So the way you describe equity is the difference between market value and what is owed on the property. That's your equity. It's a great answer, Jen. Great answer. Two good answers, one from Jen and one from Deb Klein. She said the buyer, she said value. Two good answers, two wrong answers. But that's exactly why we're here. We're here to make it so that you get it right. Okay? So think about this. If you were to buy a primary piece of property, what do you, Miss Donna Austin, what do you hope for when you buy? You gotta see it through this filter. What do you hope for when you buy a primary piece of property and you stay in there for 10 years? What's the one hope that you have?
Appreciation.
That's right. That it's worth more money than what you paid for it. And what do you rely on to give you that money?
The tenants.
No. What do you, as a primary,
Oh.
what do you rely on to give you that appreciation?
The seller's financing.
No. Seller's
Mark.
financing has nothing to do with the market,
Oh,
right? So what do you rely on to give you that appreciation? I'll give you one more crack.
just an appreciating market, increasing home values.
You rely on time. You throw your hands back, you buy the piece of property, throw your hands back and go, yeah, this house is going to be worth, more in 10 years. You're putting your entire thing into time, and you can't control the market. There's supply and demand. If the supply is heavy and the demand is low, what happens to prices? They plummet. If the supply is low and the demand is high, prices increase. So as real estate investors, time is only one thing that gives us some of that equity. The rest of it is cash flow, depreciation, leverage, and then ultimately appreciation. We're going to talk about that in a second. Everybody tracking so far? Raise your hand. Tell me that you're tracking. Everybody's good? All right, awesome. Cheryl, I will answer your questions in between. Let me get this last little piece out of my mouth, and then I will literally answer some questions, okay? So what I did with this guy is I said, I'll give you 105. Okay, we agreed on 105. I agreed on $10,000 down and another $5,000 in 18 months. Remember, we are real estate investors, okay? There's 4 things that you're looking for. you're looking for cash flow, you're looking for leverage, you're looking for tax advantages, and you're looking for appreciation. Those are the 4 things that you're looking for. You can't get that with a stock. You can't add value to a stock. But you could take a piece of property and you could throw a kitchen in it, a bathroom in it, some new windows in it, and a roof in it, and you can add value to it. That's why real estate is such an amazing thing. I like laugh at some of these influencers, you know, they're out there on Instagram in front of the Lambo, big stack of fucking cash, and they're like, yeah, I got a Lambo rental business. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, it's great that you've got a Lambo rental business, but you can't drive the fucking thing off the lot, put 4 new tires on it, tint the windows, drive it back to the dealership and go, what do you think it's worth now, Mr. Dealer? And I tell you to get the fuck out of the dealership. But with real estate, you can add all that value, go back to the bank and go, what do you think it's worth now? And they'll go, well, it's worth this. And then the trick to the game is to wring the money out. That's a whole nother thing, which I'd be happy to come back in here and talking to you about wringing properties out.
Yeah.
Because that's what these things are. They're little ATM machines. And you
That'll
got to
be 201.
What's that?
That'll be the 201 class.
Yeah, there you go. The 2-in-1 class. How much time do we have here today?
Much as you want, bro. I got another, you know, however you want to run, dude.
All right, good. We're going to go to 9 p.m. Everybody settle in. So I'm kidding. So maybe we will go to 9 p.m. I don't give a shit. Anybody out on the West Coast, California? Melissa? All right, it's early for you. Melissa and Randy, you guys, it's early for you guys. I got 2 people in my team right now. They're in a Zoom. So we do a live Zoom each and every day, and I stream it into my group. I got a group. So like my people literally are on screen like this all day long, pitching seller finance deals. It's an awesome group. And I got 2 I actually got 3 in California. I got 3 in California. I've got 1 in Illinois, and then the rest of us are on the East Coast. So $105,000 purchase price, $10,000 down, $5,000 in 18 months. All right. I want you to take the $5,000 and throw it away for this example to make it easy for you. I want to keep the math cran language. Okay. You don't want to say, can I balloon you out in 10 years? You do want to say, if I made you equal monthly payments of X and I made you 120 payments, how does that make you feel? 120 payments is 10 years. 60 payments is 5 years. 96 payments is 8 years. People love payments. They hate to wait years. So if I made you 60 equal monthly payments of X, and then I gave you a lump sum at the end of it, how do you feel about that, right? Whatever it may be, right? So that's a little pro tip there. People do not want to wait for their money. They love the idea of going to the mailbox, though, and picking up a check each and every month.
Hold on, guys. That line right there that he just said is fucking gold. So the recording, I'm going to go back to it because it's not just it's the way that he says it. Where for me, I was mind blown when I heard that. Think about what he just said. People hate years. They love payments, right? Forget about the years. Just talk about the payments. So all they think is I'm getting 120 payments of X amount of dollars. Sorry, Cash. Go ahead.
Okay, no. I want the interruption. Go ahead. Keep
John,
going.
John, I witnessed you do this last week, and I was wondering why. And like, now it makes
This
sense.
fucking guy right here's why.
Yeah, no, I saw you do this with somebody last week, and it got her to closer to us closing than saying years. So,
and I still don't fucking say it the way that he does because it's so, and I've seen him speak 4 or 5 times. This is why I have him here. It's not just to show, guys. This is fucking for us so we can close more deals efficiently. And my team, you guys are all business partners with me. We're a team. We can make more money together. He is the reason why wholesalers like myself and Eric Klein are able to lock up wholesale deals because of the ability to pattern interrupt a seller and completely shift gears and pivot. Okay, you want to go here? Boom, let's go there. It's like he's like Bruce Lee. He's like Water or like Neo from the fucking Matrix when they're shooting bullets at him and he's just fucking moving out of the way in real time and just shifting to where the deal is going to go down. Knowing seller finance the way that Kash simplifies it and speaking in that language will not only let you get seller finance deals and build wealth, but it will help you secure the wholesale deals and the novation deals and do business more efficiently because you're going to be looked at as the authoritative figure. That little that hesitation that he just said, do any of you guys hear me on the phone do that shit? Absolutely not. I don't fucking because I study the fuck out of Mike and I study Eric Klein and I study all the people before me who are doing this shit at a high level. So when I get on the phone, I'm fluid and they know they're speaking to an authoritative figure right there. Go ahead, Kash.
That's it. That's everything. So like a really good point is like, so most people mistake my personality with cockiness, arrogance, when it's authoritative. So I get misunderstood. I mean, I've been misunderstood my whole life. So, which is great. I fucking love it. I definitely have a little bit of a way about me that I've been through so much shit that my radar is super high. I could smell bullshit coming from a mile away. I have a really sick ability to look, and it's the reason why I want to look in your eyes. I don't like to talk to squares, is because I can sense who you are and what you're about without literally speaking to you by the way you carry your body, the way you carry yourself, whatever. That takes just a lot of life experience. I cut my teeth in New York, got my ass kicked in, been through a ton of shit. So the more experience you have, the better you're going to be, right? And everybody's full of shit. Everybody is so entirely full of shit that it's crazy. Like you got to really have a high radar for all of this stuff. And you know, again, I'm a straight shooter, shoot from the hip, no bullshit, which is why people kind of love it. Some people hate it, think I'm an arrogant prick. Some people love it and they make millions of dollars. So hopefully you love it and you make some money. All right. So now that I got the purchase price out of the way and the down payment for me was so low, which is the only reason why I negotiated that up front, is I now had to structure a timeline, okay? And all of the pieces of the puzzle are negotiable. All of them. And what I'm doing is I'm moving down payment money around and interest around. I'm moving timeline around with this, with that, the other thing. Here's what you're looking for when you're buying on seller finance. I gave you the 4 things that you're looking for from an investment perspective. I'm going to give you the things that you're looking for when it comes to seller finance. You're looking for the lowest purchase price, although not required, the lowest monthly payment, the lowest interest rate, with the longest timeline. Let me say that again. The lowest purchase price, though not required, the lowest monthly payment, the lowest interest rate with the longest timeline. The more time you get, the more cash flow you get. The more time you get, the more leverage you get. The more time you get, the more tax advantages you get. The more time you get, the more appreciation you get. Time. Money without a timeline or a purchase price without a timeline, you can guarantee it's always going to be somebody asking for the highest money, for the largest price. When the price is connected to the timeline is when you can negotiate the pieces. If you've got somebody on the phone, whether on market, off market, I don't know if anybody does on market deals. There's a shit ton of them. I bought 4 of them last week on market, but I exploit the shit out of real estate brokers. I literally strap saddles on real estate brokers' backs and ride them around like show ponies inside the conversation and do it all day long. It's the most amazing thing. I love it. Because these people, and if you're a broker, I get it. Don't worry. You take a state mandated test, you fail the math 5 times, pass it on your 6th time, they go, congratulations, go get some listings. And you know nothing about real estate. But you're
3
there,
times.
but you're
3
there to
times.
protect your client. You got to protect your client. I know you do. So I just exploit the shit out of them. It's one of my favorite things to do all day, every day. So, because I like to test, I like to throw hooks out in my conversations. I like to test you. I like to know what you really know. And when I throw a test hook out and you don't bite it, we're good. Like I'm in control. It keeps me in control of the conversation. I don't lose control.
Hey, Mike, real quick, what's the optimal seller finance deal? Like, let's say you have something that's someone wants to get and they got a $1.5 million project or a $1.5 million deal. Do you deal with any of those, or what's your ideal seller finance deal?
I just bought a 13 unit building. I'm actually under litigation on this thing. That's the second most important person in your real estate journey. First is going to be your bookkeeper. Second is going to be your attorney. Third is going to be your CPA. So you're not looking for an optimal
Well,
deal.
good. I'm making my son. I'm paying my son's my law school, so I have him on retainer for the rest of his life.
I got you. Rather than you look for the ultimate deal, I'm going to give you the parameters to look for the ultimate sellers.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks.
I'm going to give you the perfect seller finance avatar. Okay.
That works.
Okay. So, where the hell was I, Tori? You threw
We're gonna bring this one home. It's the 10 grand down.
All
and
right,
then
10 grand down. All right, so
negotiate the timeline.
All right, so here we go. So I'm now negotiating the timeline, right? And since every piece is negotiable, I'm always shooting high on the timeline. So what we need to think about is we need to think about how a bank lends money. If any one of us walked into Bank of America or Chase and we were going to buy a house, they offer 2 products, a 30-year product and a 15, right? So when we have to be mindful that people are not going to wait 30 years to get paid off. The ones who are going to wait 30 years to get paid off own big multifamily buildings that are looking for it because they're worried about depreciation recapture. They're worried about capital gains tax. They're worried about all that stuff. So you're going to be playing against a player when you deal with that. Okay. So you just want to be mindful. You want to understand who you're playing against. Also, that's like super, super important. Okay. So I'm negotiating a timeline and we wind up settling at 8 years, which is 96 payments, right? A payment to a mortgage company is made every month. So now the way the structure is this. He agreed. I gave him $10,000 in cash. I bought it for I'm going to start from the top. I bought it for $105. I put $10,000 down. Another $5,000 in 18 months. I'm going to pull this out for this example. So I just want you to worry about that first loan, right? And then I'm going to make them equal monthly payments of $250 a month. This cell phone is $500 a month. I'm making a $250 payment on this house for the next for 8 years. Okay. Now I'm going to give you just some timelines. Okay. I bought this house and let it sit because it's just, I was using it for my training. I use it as like examples. I've got a couple of pieces of properties that it's really kind of bad of me, but I was doing it more for social media and kind of like, running through the deals and running through the house and running through the rehab and using it as content and all this stuff. Where finally got around to renting this thing. Okay. So let's do the numbers. Okay. That seller is now going to hold the note. All right. Anybody who doesn't know, there are really 3 instruments that kind of make up a mortgage, right? You've got the note, the deed, and the deed of trust. The deed shows ownership. The note has all the terms that you've got to pay. And the deed of trust says, here's what happens if you don't pay it. Easiest way to remember it, okay? They are three separate instruments that all come together at a closing and ultimately close at the same time. It gets recorded and you're good to go. You're now owner of the property, okay? So I agreed to make them $250 a month payments each and every month. The property rents for $1,850. Now, let's do some numbers. Let's go with Colby, because Colby's got a grin on his face. He's like, I can't fucking wait to buy some deals. So,
What's going on?
what's up, man? So, we've got to calculate where the money goes now. Okay? 0% interest deal. No interest on the money at all. Such a tiny little payment. Okay? So, each and every month that I make the payment to him, right, I'm paying down the loan. Because I pay him, I'm paying me. I don't feel the money, right? The money is there in the equity, right? So sometimes people pick up subject to no equity deals and you know, people look at them and go, crazy, you're not cash flowing. Well, they might have a tax play that they want to take care of. So a no equity subject to deal might be a good deal. By the way, the value on this property is at 180. So I walked into $75,000 worth of equity. What looks like equity, it's not real equity, because if I sold it out on an open market, I probably have to send it to I'd have to sell it to an end user. An end user is going to come through a broker. I've got to pay closing costs. I've got to pay commissions. So the 75, it looks like 75,000 on paper, but it's not $75,000. It's more like maybe $65,000 or $62,000. Right? And most people would look at that and go, I'm going to make a $50,000 rip. And I go, wait a minute, don't sell the piece of property. Because if it's one thing that I can go back and change, it's again, if I held on to a fifth of the fucking deals that I sold, I would not be on this Zoom. I would not be here. Just an eighth of them. I mean, killer deals. But way back when, I was like, I'm making 30, I'm making 20, I'm making, and I'm like, dumb. Because you don't really get wealthy by doing the thing you do. You get wealthy by owning the shit you own. So as you build this hamster wheel for yourself in wholesale, and you think you're doing great, you realize that you're building this hamster wheel that you can't get off of. And if you're watching Eric, he just sold the company for that reason specifically. You cannot get off the hamster wheel. You got to learn how to buy properties differently. And you can't be an office. You've got to be a buyer. You're a buyer of real estate. And if you come off like an office and you don't come off like a person, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But understanding seller finance, you'll have an unfair advantage over everybody. Okay? So let's talk about it now. Ready? I want you to do some numbers with me, Colby. Here we go. So I now have 8 years to pay this thing off, and it rents at $1,850. Okay? So now I've got to pay $250 a month to the seller, which is now the bank. Right?
Mhm.
Now the bank. He was the seller. He became the lender. I was the buyer. I became the borrower. He was the seller. He became the lender. I was the buyer. I became the borrower. All in the same transaction. I paid the bank, Jason, $250 a month. What else am I responsible for as an owner of a piece of property? Colby, talk to me.
Maintenance, vacancy, CapEx.
You're a sub 2 guy? You must be a sub 2 guy. Are you a sub 2 guy talking about CapEx? Talking about
Nah.
vacancy and all good? Okay, thank God.
Just
ahead.
all the things that I understand that you're supposed to account for when renting it out.
3 things I want you to remember. You're
Mhm.
responsible for taxes, insurance, and maintenance.
So are you doing this based off a lease option then? Is that what you're leasing, like sending it
Nope.
off? No? Okay.
Nope. You're responsible for the taxes, the maintenance, and the insurance. Forget about CapEx and forget about vacancy for a second. Okay? Because if
Okay.
you're buying these properties and you want to buy and hold them, you should have a really firm grip on your market. If you think you're going to sit back from a desk and own a piece of property out in Colorado when you're sitting in Florida and you're going to buy these one-offs in different states and you're going to try to piece it together, it's going to be an uphill battle. Okay. So my recommendation for you is if anybody wants to own rentals, start in your backyard where you can feel them, touch them. You can manage them yourself because you're either going to manage the property or you're going to manage the property manager. Tell you from experience. And it's much easier to manage the property than it is to manage property out. So just remember those 3 things. Forget about CapEx, forget about vacancy right now. If you're going into a market, maybe on a multifamily unit, maybe 10 plus, 5 to 30, something like that, I would worry about that CapEx stuff. If you're buying 3 ones that are plus minus 1,000 square feet in Maryland, or you're buying them in Charlotte, you're buying them in Florida, you can literally look at a piece of property online and know whether or not it needs a fucking roof. You could ask about the HVAC system. You can ask about the hot water heater. You don't have to worry so much about all of that stuff. I understand what you're saying when it comes to management fees, CapEx, all that good stuff. I just wouldn't worry about it so much up front. I just worry about the big ticket items, and then we'll take round numbers and we'll add to it. All right. So now I pay him $250 a month.
Mhm.
I have a tax bill to make things easy at $1,200 a year, which is $100 a month. I have an insurance bill of $1,200 a year, which is $100 a month. I'm up to $450. And then I take $200 and say, I'm going to piss $200 a month away on mowing the lawn, and I'm going to put $100 into a war chest for repairs. But I know what I'm buying, and I'm buying turnkey properties because John, I got this crazy thing, crazy. I started buying turnkey properties sub 100,000, which has a crazy rate of return. And I'm a multifamily guy. I stopped playing in single family a few years back, but I'm getting back into single family because there's a lot of opportunity, a ton, if you know what the fuck you're doing. And it's pretty easy. Okay. So I pay $250. I pay $100, that's $450. Another $200, that's $650. It rents for $1,850. Somebody do the math for me. That's a $1,200.
$1,250, yeah.
Yeah, $1,200 net. Net. $1,200 times year 1 is how much?
14,000.
150, yeah.
I've gotten all my down payment back. I've got no money in this deal. I'm whole after year 1. Now, here's what's so interesting about it. I get to choose what I want to do with that money. So if there's 2 plays here. If I took all the net cash flow that I had, and Alan Wallace and I are the same age. You could tell by the Alan and I are the same age. There we go.
Exactly.
Okay? That's experience, my guy.
That's right.
All right. Alan and I are the same age. Alan's fucking old school. If I gave Alan a bag of cash, he'd know exactly where to put it. Exactly. Not many newcomers out here would know what to do with that cake. So if Alan took all of his net and threw it into a safe in his backyard and he buried it each and every year, how much money would he have at the end of 8 years? Let's do some math. 14 for a year times 8 years is how much?
115, 200.
I bought it for 105, put $10,000 down, another 5,000. There's a note for 90 grand. So you can reverse engineer this and say to yourself, when does the property get actually paid off if we used Alan's bag of cash? But what I like to do is I like to take that cash flow, stockpile it, and go buy some more shit. Because not only have I paid it off early, I've gained all that appreciation. I've taken all the depreciation. Like you cannot fuck it up. It's literally impossible to fuck up. The only skill set you have to learn is how to pitch them, and you got to understand where the money goes. Now, if I wanted to, I could take all that cash money and I could put it into different projects. I could sit back, me and Jen could sit back, throw our hands back and go, let time do its thing. And as time does its thing, it's gaining maybe 6% appreciation. And in year 4, the thing is worth $220,000, $230,000. I could go back to a bank, get lent at 80 cents on the dollar, squeeze all that money out of that piece of property completely tax-free. There is no tax on debt. Take the money, throw it in my pocket, go buy more on seller finance. My cash flow is going to shrink, but what do I give a shit? There's a tenant in there paying its way. So like I said in the beginning, since real estate is cyclical, we sit back, we wait 7 years, the cash flow and the equity thing, we go back to the well, we squeeze it again, we take it, throw it in our pocket, and keep going, and keep going, and keep going. It's that simple. Questions? Let's go.
Your ultimate seller avatar. Can you touch on that real quick?
When I think of real estate, I want to know what you know. I go to great lengths to protect my assets, which means I understand corporate structure, how to structure things. I had to learn this the hard way. I had to get robbed. I had to get robbed, stolen from, fucking taken advantage of, like literally, in order for me to do this. So here's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for multifamily. I'm looking 5 to 30 units. And the first thing I'm looking for is somebody who owns a piece of property in their personal name. That says the world to me. I'm looking for the seller, the landlord, that when I ask for a set of P&Ls, they can't provide them. I'm looking for a landlord who cares more about his tenants than the rent, which is everybody. They're like, I haven't raised the rent in 10 years. I don't want to lose that tenant. I'm like, I love you. Keep talking. Singing like a canary. Keep going. They don't have them on a lease. They got them on a month-to-month lease, which makes it easy for me to get into it. Let me make it very clear. I'm not throwing anybody out. But the rent is going to get paid. The rent's going to get paid. The real rent is going to get paid. I don't give out any freebies. I supply amazing housing for amazing tenants. I do a lot of work with the homeless. I do a lot of work with subsidized. I do a lot of work for a lot of people. So I'm telling you, when I say I have a heart, I have a heart. But when it comes to business, I'm all numbers, right? Which is what you guys should be doing, right? If your mindset is just want to get 4 of these things and I want these 4 units paying my way and I don't want to rattle the boat and I just, whatever, you and I can't be friends. Okay. We have to go get this money. We got to go get this money because everybody here has a reservation that we're not getting out of. So go get it because somebody else is going to fucking get it. Like you got to go get it. So Find me a person who owns it in their personal name. They don't have any P&Ls. They're on a month-to-month lease. They haven't raised the rents in forever. There's a bunch of deferred maintenance. There's a bunch of deferred maintenance. They collect the rent in cash and they want the most money for their property.
And most importantly, no mortgage balance paid off.
And
Right.
it paid off. I mean, even if there's a small mortgage, I mean, I'm in a different spot, so.
Yeah, we can
But-
still work with that.
Yep. And most of these people, like you got to get into the psychology of it, right? Like if John and I are from 1950, we were born in 1950. I just lost my old man in January. He was born in 1947. My dad was amazing at buying property. He was really shitty at patience. He was a quick rip guy, like with quick rip. And I look back at the properties he owned and I go, oh my God. Now, if I was 1947 and John's 1947, we both start our real estate journey. We're both kind of entrepreneurial. We both like to take risks. Maybe John's more well off than I am at that point. I was only able to afford single family homes, but John was able to buy a 5-unit. Here's John's mentality. John buys the 5-unit, looks at his wife and goes, honey, this is a great start. Calls up all his friends, all his cousins, because he doesn't want to pay for the rehab. Says, everybody come on over on the weekend. I'm going to cook steaks. I'm going to grab a paint roller. I want you guys to paint this place for me. We're going to enjoy the weekend. I need help. Everybody gets excited. Everybody's involved. John gets into the management. He fills up the piece of property. He's really not thinking like a real estate investor because he gets this cake each and every month. And at a certain point in time, John's life changes just a little bit. Maybe kids come, something happens, and one of the units go vacant. And he looks at his wife. She goes, John, are you going to get that thing rented? He goes, honey, I'm just so busy. We're getting 4 rents here. It's fine. Like we're still making a bunch of money. And then that unit sits vacant. And then boom, another unit gets vacant. And they're still making money. And as time kicks on, how many times have you guys driven by the building that every time you look at the shit box, you go, I wish I had that shit box. I wish I had it. I wish I had it. Because I know what I would be able to do with it. You're like, man, I would make this thing like this, and I would do this, and I would do that. I'm looking for that seller. And then I negotiate their net. So here's what I'll do. I'll go, John, so you're getting $1,000. So you're getting $1,000 a month in rent? And I go, yeah, I'm getting $1,000. I should be getting $1,600. I go, why aren't you? No, I can't do that to Betty. Betty's been there for 5 years. And I go, all right. And I go, the taxes on this thing are about $2,000 a year, whatever, $2,000 a year. What's the insurance running you on this building? Well, the insurance is this. And all I'll do is I'll add up the tax. I'll add up the insurance. I'll divide it by 12. Let's say it comes up to $500 or $400. I'll say this, and this is the test hook. I'll say, so you're getting about $1,000 a month in rent. I'm going to keep it crayon language here with 2 easy numbers. You're getting $1,000 a month in rent, and you're paying out, and the taxes are this, the taxes are this. And let's say the taxes of the insurance and the maintenance added up to $400. I know that he's netting 600 or close to 600. I'll go, so you're netting about $300, yeah? And the minute he goes, yeah, something like that, I go, you're done. So it's over. You chomped on the hook and it's over. Because what I've done by negotiating the net is I've negotiated the delta between, like on my end for the cash flow. Does that make sense to anybody? Rob, I think that makes sense to you. Yeah, Rob Casillo, Mike Smith, I could see you nodding a little bit. Yeah.
Were you just trying, because you just said it was 600, then you cut it in half at 300. Was that like your anchor to make sure he wasn't paying? Then he's just like, yeah, sure, 300. So then would you use that to go
So then I'll
into
just
your
go,
payments?
so then I'll just
Number
go,
of payments.
so what if I get you your net? I'll make you the same net that you're getting right now.
Yeah.
Take all the headache off your plate.
Yeah.
You won't
I
have to
love
deal
that.
with the maintenance. You won't have to deal with the tenant. You won't have to deal with moving them in. You don't have to find any contractors. You don't have to collect any W-9s. You don't have to collect any certificate of insurances. John, I know for a fact that contractors notoriously suck. What's your experience been like?
Bro, with this right here, I just had like a crazy epiphany, bro, because every seller finance deal, I've never found out the net of the sellers. I always freaking pick a stupid ass number that they accept instead of ask. And dude, they were individually owned, they were on month-to-month lease, and I still made good money on. I made 35 grand on that one. It should have been a $65,000 hit, or I should have just kept it, to be quite fucking honest with you. Damn.
Now,
Wow. So you go after the net, bro. You go after the net,
I'm
the
a
net
sniper, my
and then
man.
you reverse it on
Yep.
that's what you're gonna pay them. So they're
Yep.
not losing money every month when they
They're
sell it to you. Guys,
Now I'm
Fantastic.
overpaying. Now I'm overpaying for the property. They think I'm a crazy asshole. I've given them exactly what they're netting each and every month. They go, this guy is an angel. But I get it at 0% interest. So cash money giveth and cash money taketh away.
it's the Fantastic Four, guys. It's the every payment he's making is going towards reducing the balance by 100% of what that payment is. That's fantastic. Number one, there's the four. Ready? So the equity buy down, I think that's what Mike refers to as the leverage, right? The equity position. And then we've got the cash flow that accrues multiplied by however many months, right? And then the monthly payments that accrue, the equity you build over however many months. And then you've got the appreciation over those 96 months and the depreciation over those 8 years. I call it the Fantastic Four that you get to take advantage of. No other deal in these that we named, you get to take advantage of those four benefits.
It's the best strategy, hands down. If you guys truly want to build wealth, you've got to own some shit. And if you can understand how to pitch this, because I'm telling you, it is so fucking easy. It is so easy because I'm merely the guy giving you the most money. So when I run an ad, I don't go all cash, click close, blah, blah, blah. I go overpaying for property since 1947. Click here.
You got to be able to explain it though the right way. If you're going to be able to advertise, you got to put a professional on the phone that can do it.
Right. So now my ad pops up and they go overpaying for properties. Think about how many people fill out the inbound lead form.
Yeah.
They get on the phone with 20 fucking people. You are faceless. They are faceless. You get on the phone, you go, hey, did you fill out, have you filled out any more forms? They go, yeah, I filled out 20 forms and I got 13 lowball offers. I'm questioning why you're on the phone with me. You're on the phone with me because you're praying I'm the sucker who's going to give you the most money. So I'll give it to you.
So let's go, because I know we have questions. Everybody raise your hand if you got questions for Kash too. Alan, I see you too. Alan, do me a favor, raise your hand. Do you know how to raise the hand at the bottom?
Yeah.
That way I want to get the people in order. But go ahead, Alan, since you want to ask, go ahead. We'll start with you and then we'll go to Steve.
So I am just wondering why we're negotiating purchase price versus total price. Because when you negotiate total price, the interest rate is just a factor of that total price. And then you can break it down however you want so that maybe in this case, we go back to your story, your total price is going to be 105. Now that's either going to be 105 at the end with 0% interest, or it's going to be 80,000 is the purchase price with X amount of percentage over the course of the 8 years. And then if the cash flow is so good that I want to pay it off early, I can pay it off early and I'm done paying the interest. And then it's not a total of 105, maybe it's a total of 96.
So your question is what? So I think the filter that you see it through makes it a little bit more difficult to calculate it all, right? So when you say total price, you're including the interest and all that stuff in that price.
Yeah, whatever it would be total instead of the purchase price. And they're not gonna be confused by it because you're gonna say total price. You're gonna get X amount of dollars for your property.
Yeah. So however you want to pitch it is how you want to pitch it. But again, there are two parts of it. There's a part that they see and the part that you see. The most important part that you see is where the money's going to. So do I really give a shit? Do I really give a shit? Let me ask you a question. If we take a $100,000 purchase price
Yep.
and an actual fair market value of $100,000. And I pay 125 for the piece of property, but I've got 8 years to pay it off. Why do I give a shit?
Well, back to your depreciation, your tax benefit, you can write off, or your company can write off their
Yeah,
interest.
but I'm hedging. I'm working on one hedge there, and that hedge is the market. So
Yeah.
the same way Jen sits back and waits for the market to appreciate, if
Mhm.
I know that I'm getting an appreciation rate of X and
Mhm.
I'm overpaying by 25 grand, but I've got 8 years to pay it off. In my mind, I'm saying to myself, I've got to wait 2 years. I'm giving up 2 years worth of appreciation to gain 6.
Mhm.
So because most of my deals are, I think the way you look at it is not incorrect. I think it is correct. It's just more confusing to the common mind as to like whether you factor all of that stuff in. I don't need to factor all that stuff in because I'm throwing out numbers. I'm not going to an amortization calculator and going, oh, a 30-year 6% thing will work out like this. What I usually do is I'm gonna give you a fucking pro tip here, is I annualize the interest, tack it onto the purchase price, and guarantee it to them.
All right.
That's high level shit though.
No, that makes sense.
Yep. So did I answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. It's a matter of just position, how you're delivering the information. So you're guaranteeing them extra money versus saying, I'm going to give you extra money and this is how it's going to break down. 10% of that's going to be interest. It's going to show 100 and whatever on the.
Now,
No,
the question is,
I don't amortize the loans.
Yeah.
I already
No,
know where the money's going to. So what I'll do is this. I just pitched one in I'm moving to St. Augustine, hopefully. I just pitched a primary for me in St. Augustine. Okay. House has been on the market for 120 days.
Right.
I got in the car, actually drove down there. And my wife and I went into the house, and so when I'm looking on market, again, I exploit the brokers, right? Like a broker should not be putting out on the market back on the market at no fault of the seller. You're telling me it fell out of contract. So because you're telling me it fell out of contract, I know the way it makes the seller feel.
Right.
Right. So I exploit all of that stuff. And when I was pitching it, the seller, and here's how I pitched it. I said to my wife before I get there, I go, I'm not pitching this through one of my rules is I don't pitch it through a broker.
No.
I go, hey, I've got a great offer for your client. If you want me to make the offer, I'm happy to put you on the phone on a 3-way, but I am not going to give you the offer to go back to your client because you're not going to understand what I'm saying. So what I want you to do is put them on. I'll let you represent me. I'll make the pitch, whatever it is. I'll make the offer, blah, blah, blah. So what I said was, he's been on the market for 120 days. The market was like, the house is up for like 689, whatever the hell it was. It's in a little pocket that I love. So 689, been on the market for forever. And I can only imagine that they're getting lowballed offers, right?
Yep.
So what I did was I said, hey, if I came up to the asking price for your client, he'd make the most money. You can represent me. You'd make the most money. And then I can get around Jerome Powell and these fucking interest rates to make it a little bit easier for me. You think it'd be open, like to it? And he go, and she's like, yeah. So she puts me on the phone with the guy at the showing. I go, here's my shot. I wasn't going to wait. I go, Fred, I got a question for you. I go, if I got close to your asking price, you think you'd be willing to give me a little bit of time to pay it off? And he goes, what are you thinking? Most people would jump in and go, here's what I'm thinking. I go, I don't know what I'm thinking. I go, honestly, I'm not done looking at the piece of property. Let me look at it and I'll buzz you back. Okay, Mike, now we're friendly. These one call closes do not exist, especially in seller finance. This is a fucking follow-up game. So what I said was this. I'll give you full ask and I'll give you $30,000 worth of guaranteed interest. I want to wrap that up into the purchase price, and then I'll make you equal monthly payments each and every month of $2,000 a month. So I'll give you the 689 plus the 50, which will bring your purchase price to X. And then I think I pitched 60 months because I knew he was a little bit of an older guy. He like onset dementia. He had like 6 properties he wanted to get rid of. So in his eyes, and I'm guaranteeing that money. It's just that I pitch it as interest because I don't want to amortize the loan.
Right.
I want to just take a round number and throw it at them so they think I'm bananas.
Right.
This is such high level shit, man. I swear to God, I think I just got lost for a second.
All right.
You just say something with interest. Was this with interest, Mike? Was this deal with interest, or what just happened?
That's fantastic, though.
Yeah, so
So what was his asking price?
689.
And you basically gave him like like 7,
Yeah, yep.
720, 710.
Yeah, whatever the hell it was, 50,000.
And
That's
so you
crazy.
just called that
60.
extra interest, right?
Yep, I just said, hey man, what I want to do is I want to just take the interest and front load it for you. This way you don't lose it. Because honestly, Fred, there's really nothing protecting you from the interest if I sold it. If I sell it, you're going to lose all that interest.
Okay,
So
so
you
stop. Now I got it. Now I got it. So wait. So he wanted interest in his mind, but what Mike did is he framed it as interest and just overpaid with the interest in the price. And just took that interest and said, "I'm just gonna." Wow. Yeah.
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 Was that the actual interest, or did you just kind of throw a number on top of it?
Mike, I don't go to an AM table, buddy.
Yeah. So you just kind of threw 50 on it and said, yeah, that's the interest. And then he just took it.
Again,
Yeah.
if I tack it into the purchase price and it's 50 grand,
Yeah.
you know the market. So what I'm hedging against there is I'm hedging it not against the market. I'm working with the market. Like I'm saying to myself, in other words, if I get a 7% appreciation rate, would I be willing to give up the appreciation to get heavy cash flow? Yes. Would I be willing to give up 2 years worth of appreciation to get 6? Yes. Would I be right? Like I don't give a shit because I'm getting the Fantastic Four.
Makes sense.
You got to know where the money goes. When you know where the money goes, this is surface level shit here.
It is.
This is surface level shit. Is anybody having a little bit of an aha moment? Raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna be up all night
Okay.
with this. Yeah, it's I'm already over here tinkering. So
All right, good. So the next time you make offers,
Hey, Mike, are we recording this? Because I got to watch it like 2 or 3 times.
that's up to John.
I am. I got it.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that because my head's mind blown too.
Yeah, dude. Normal.
Good. So
It's normal. So let's get these questions knocked out too, Mike, because I want to get Hunter, Cheryl, and Deb and Steve.
I'm in no rush. I can stay here for another hour. Let's go.
Steve, did you get your question answered? Because I saw you had your hand up first.
No, I got bumped. So
Steve, I feel like I know you, man. Or I met you.
We had a call before.
All right, man. What's going on?
So I know that's probably a simple question, but where does the rehab come in? Like when you estimate these, does that, that number ever comes in here? Because you mentioned a turnkey property. If I'm looking at one right now, and that's the only thing that I'm kind of wondering, how do I plug in the rehab number here?
Everybody's situation is different. If you're playing with dry powder and there's no cost of money, then it's dry powder and there's no cost of money. If you're taking on a PML and John's going to lend you to 30,000, John's going to give you an interest rate and say, hey, I'll lend you the 30,000. You'll factor that into the payment and the rest is history.
So basically, if I'm looking at this deal as a wholesale deal, I'm taking it as a seller finance, but I am going to wholesale it. I should just work that into the numbers for the buyer.
I don't know why the fuck you would work so hard to put the deal together to wholesale it.
Same thing he told me, and he continues to tell me. And I'd soon, I'm going to be buying them. But these are some of the juiciest deals to wholesale. I've gotten some of the highest assignment fees, and I've regretted every single one of them that I've sold.
Don't be tempted, man.
I know, but it's something that you also mentioned. If it's not in my backyard, I can't, like I have properties where I am, but these are the homes that I'm looking at that, I have no idea about the market. Do I really want to?
I'm just giving you my experience. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I just, in all my years of doing this, I own them out of state, but again, I don't know what your experience is like. Again, I've been through the shit. So I know construction, I know rehab, I know that, I know what it'll cost me. I just know, right? Because I've done a lot of these things. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. It's just the cost of money. If there's a cost of money, then you're going to factor it into the payment. Simple as that. So however you estimate your rehab is how you estimate your rehab. I can guarantee you I'll get more done with 20 than you'll get done with 40. Depending on where we are. Now, you might get more done with 20 than I would get done with 40 in Maryland. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's really the cost of money. That's
I got it. Just so I'm not holding anybody up, one last thing is if there's a remaining mortgage and let's say the interest is high, so there's no sense of any kind of a hybrid, like how do you structure that? Like how do you look at the remaining payment or having them maybe paying that off and you just doing structuring the seller finance part of it? How does that work?
I'll give you an actual deal. I just bought it 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to tell you where I bought it because my markets are ridiculous. But I bought one, perfect seller, found it I do a lot of on-market stuff. There are so many fucking deals sitting on Zillow. When you know what to look for, they are everywhere. Everywhere. So I bought one. I bought a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, all brick, was on the market for 49 grand. Fell out of contract twice. There was a $35,000 mortgage on it. I took the mortgage over sub 2. The difference between the 49 and the 35 is 15,000, and they agreed to $100 a month until paid. Rents for $1,650.
Hybrid.
Took me 20 minutes to do and 7,500 to get in.
I know where that market is.
Keep it to yourself.
And so what did you give the seller to basically just $100 a month?
The first, actually, believe it or not, the offer was $200 a month, $5,000 down. They asked me for $7,500 a month. I got the fucking text.
Wow.
Just so you know, I'm not bullshitting you.
I believe you.
No, I want to show you anyway.
We're gonna swing over to Hunter once we're done with Steve. Steve, is that gonna be a? Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
It was $5,000. It was $5,000. I offered them $5,000 with $200 a month. They asked for $7,500. I gave them the $7,500 for $100 a month.
Nice.
There it is.
Ask him what he looks for on market. Can you hear me?
You can ask me anything you'd like.
Okay. I didn't know if you could hear me over there. I wanted to see what is it that you're looking for when you're looking on market? Is it the
look for-
pulling out of contract?
On market,
He doesn't
Yeah.
look on market.
I'm
You
looking
said
at
you
the,
know what to
I'm
look
looking
for.
at the pictures. Here's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking at the pictures. I'm looking at the days on market. I'm looking at the price drops. I'm going back to the broker and seeing how many more listings they have and whether I can run through them. And then ultimately, again, I'm calculating rehab and what my offer would be pretty quickly. So each property tells a story. You've got to be able to put yourself in the mind of the seller to find good deals. Let me ask you a question, Kim. If you bought a piece of property and you bought it, ready? I find these all day long. They bought it a year ago. I just found this one. They bought it a year ago, and the picture has brand new sheetrock with the tape, purple board inside the bathroom. Anybody know what purple board is? It's waterboard. It's made for a bathroom. Yep. Purple board in the bedroom, a brand new roof, a set of windows that are on the side. They bought it a year ago and it looks like shit. You know what that says to me? They had a shitty experience with a contractor. I get on the phone with the broker and I go, I got to ask you a question, Crystal. I go, what is going on with this one? I don't go, hey, my name is Mike, calling from Cash Offer Cash Now, and I'm calling about this property on whatever. I'm going, Crystal,
Talk to me.
listen, I'm a local buyer here. I don't know how this thing even crossed my desk. What is going on with this property? You've had it on the market for 90 days. I know from a broker's perspective, at some point, the broker throws their hands up and go, fuck this. I don't want to sell this house anymore. I've been dealing with guys like John and Randy and Roger calling me, trying to lowball me all day. And then I come in and I go, listen, I've got an idea here. I know you're probably getting lowballed. Yeah, like crazy. I go, how long did you take this listing agreement for? Well, I've got it for 6 months. I go, all right, so you're about halfway through? Yeah. Have you had any offers? Yeah, we've had some offers. Have you ever been under contract? No, we haven't been under contract. You got any ownership in this, Crystal? So I want to make sure that I'm playing the player. You got any ownership in this? No, I'm just a listing agent. Awesome. I'm unrepresented. So would you represent me if I made an offer? Like, can you do that in this state? Meanwhile, I know you can do it, but I'm asking the question anyway. So I'm planting the seed that you're going to make more money. And I'll go, I think your seller might like this. I'm not afraid of the rehab. Hey, did he buy it with an inspection report? He didn't buy it with inspection. Oh shit. It's on a well and a septic. You mean to tell me he didn't get the well inspected? He didn't get the septic inspected? All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to make him an offer. I think he's going to like the offer. And all I want in exchange for the offer I'm going to make him is just a little bit of time. Now, it's been sitting for a month. He obviously can't get the rehab done. Here's what I want to do. I'll give you the $90,000 for the property. I'll make him $300 a month, equal monthly payments. Give me 4 months, no payment, so I can come in there, get it rehabbed. I'm going to put a good family in there. Come in there, get it rehab. I'll put a good family in there. My intention is to get him refinanced in about 36 months, but I can't control the market. I don't know what Jerome Powell is going to do. You already know how difficult it is, right, Crystal? To have it, right? And you're just playing the market with whatever you're doing. And I wound up going up to $115,000 and the guy bit. Got a brand new roof, brand new windows. I got to put the windows in. I need to do $20,000 worth of rehab. I have dry powder. I said, I'll take it as is with 2 exceptions. I need to get the well inspected. I need to get the septic inspected. As long as those are both clear. Would you believe the broker was ready to give me money? She's like, can I invest with you? If you don't have brokers throwing money at you, you're doing the shit wrong.
Here's the deal, guys.
True story.
I still get, I have to like go back and rewind his shit and fucking slow it down. I've done this many times. There's nothing wrong with that. Even today, I still don't know some of the shit he says because it comes out so silky smooth. I'm like, what the fuck did you just say?
So
it's normal. Trust me, it sinks in. The dots connect, the light bulbs turn on, and then before you know it, I started fucking sounding like him too, and I'm putting deals under contract. So it's like being in a different country. You hear people speak Japanese over and over again. Guess what? You're gonna start fucking speaking some Japanese. It's a certainty. It's inevitability. So you stay around, Mike. Everybody, I put his profile. We're gonna get all the questions, but follow Cash Money. His Instagram profile is right there. Also, Mike, what is the best way for them to follow you and find your shit, dude?
Yeah, just follow me.
Follow me. Perfect.
You'll find me. You'll find me.
This is next level stuff, guys. He is our coach's coach. The coach, like the top dogs. That's why it goes over my head because I'm like, oh, okay, that made sense. I didn't quite get it. Let me listen to it another 5 times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I've got something. I've already come away with something today. Many nuggets that I'm going to be implementing into my pitch. He's here for me just as much as he's here for you. But trust me, guys, I selfishly bring him here for myself because every time I listen to him speak, my pitch gets better and tighter, and I am more smooth than I've ever been on the phone when I talk to these sellers. Okay, so we're going to go to Hunter, Cheryl, and Deb. Hunter, talk to us, babe.
What's up, man?
What's up, brother? I was
like
just
that shirt.
wondering.
What you got, the EC shirt on? Oh shit.
That's right. So whenever you do you target anyone that doesn't already rent, like they're not landlords? And how do you kind of structure those ones, like if they don't like already making money off of it, like a net profit? with how much you're going to pay them on a monthly basis.
All right, so that's a loaded question, but I'm gonna ask that question again.
So if it's an owner occupant, how are you going to structure it?
Well, you got to think about this is to your question and Kim's question. I know exactly what I'm looking for and who I'm looking for. So I've given you the avatar for who I'm looking for. That'll play for both multifamily and single family. When you're dealing with an owner occupant, you got to remember that this sometimes is the last and first money they'll ever touch in their life. So if they need the cash to get on to another piece of property, you probably won't be able to structure a seller finance deal. If they've already bought a piece of property, it becomes a little bit easier. So,
Here's a question for you, real quick. What if it was a hybrid like a seller finance novation, where the down payment instead of an investor could come from a retail buyer through you packaging it up, selling it onto the MLS via a legitimate novation, and then connecting a retail buyer with the seller. I mean, that could be possible, right?
Yeah, that could definitely be possible. Yep, that could be possible. So but then again, you're working on the one-time rip, yeah?
Correct.
You're working on the rip. So for me, again, I know what I'm looking for. I want these properties for the long term.
Gotcha.
I stopped selling property years ago. I made the most horrible mistake of selling property. I didn't realize it. I was like, I'm doing this all fucking wrong. And everything I was taught growing up from my old man, he's like, try to not pay the government and try to not take on any debt at all. It's polar opposite. You got to love the tax code and you got to love debt in order to get wealthy here.
I love it.
So yeah, but that's definitely a play. But then again, that's a rip play. So if you're, excuse me 1 second, stay.
Hunter, why'd you make him leave, bro?
Sorry, that was a tenant. Go ahead. All right. Well, a prospective tenant. Go ahead. So did that help?
Yeah, that helps. So you pretty much just, if they have that situation, you're not targeting them. That's not who your target is. So I guess my other question to you would be, because so I'm on the call with Roger, he's my business partner. We're just starting out. So obviously it's going to be a couple deals until we can start taking down properties. So if we're going to structure the seller financing deals, what is kind of like the max that an investor like yourself would kind of want to go in at? Like, is it 15% down, 20% down? Just so we know what we can get out of the rip.
Yeah. So if you're going to go single family 3-1, let me give you a couple of parameters that I would work with if you're just getting started. If you're going to do a single family 3-1, you got to think about turns. When you're doing single family stuff, you got to think about turns, right? Like how easy is it for you to turn the property? So what I like is 3-1s plus minus 1,000 square feet, maybe up to 1,200 square feet. And ultimately, again, I'm always looking for the lowest purchase price, the lowest interest rate, the lowest monthly payment with the longest timeline. I'd like to cash flow on those at least $400 to $500 a month. That's a good starting point. Depending, what market are you in, Hunter?
So we're in Phoenix, but we're doing nationwide stuff because we're just wholesaling right now.
Okay, you're in Phoenix. Yeah, so you'll be hard pressed to find really good deals in Phoenix, I think, right? Everybody's in fucking Phoenix.
Right.
So what markets do you work in though?
So mostly we've been getting a lot of leads in Ohio, Alabama, Florida, Maryland, pretty much like all like the good Midwest. Well, a lot of the Midwest, Michigan, most of the Midwest, some of the East Coast.
Yep. Those are all good markets. Those are all
Carolina. We got one in North Carolina right now.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, those are all good markets. I think you find, what's crazy is like you find something sub 125,000, 3-1, even a traditional financing, it's going to cash flow. Depending on what strategy you're using.
Okay.
Yep.
Love it. You good, Hunter?
Yeah, thanks, brother.
You got it, man.
Cheryl, what's up,
Tell Eric
girlfriend?
I said what's up.
Hi guys. I guess it's counterintuitive to me because I'm trying so desperately to pay under market value. So you really don't care paying over or paying asking because you're just planning on holding on to it for time. You're gonna take the equity play, right?
I'm taking the cash flow play, I'm taking the equity play, I'm taking the depreciation, play, and I'm taking the appreciation play. I'm taking everything that's afforded to me through real estate.
Okay.
But that's how, yes, Cheryl,